The audacity of the HOA reached a peak I had not yet witnessed. One morning, a formal notice arrived demanding that I demolish my lodge within 48 hours. Karen's reasoning was as absurd as it was aggressive. The lodge allegedly violated a series of obscure HOA codes, which she insisted left me no choice. Most people would have panicked at the thought of losing a property they had built and maintained. But I saw it differently. I saw an opportunity to turn yet another act of aggression into leverage. First, I carefully reviewed the legal notice. The codes cited were vague, inconsistently applied, and in many cases, unenforceable against my property due to prior easements, ownership documentation, and municipal approvals. I calmly documented every discrepancy, creating a comprehensive portfolio showing that the lodge was entirely compliant, or, at the very least, that any enforcement attempt by the HOA would be immediately contestable in court. Then came the strategic flourish. Rather than responding with fear, I decided to leverage their demand to maximize my advantage. Within hours, I contacted a local law firm and an estate planner, explaining that the lodge's threatened demolition could be converted into a high-value leasing or rental opportunity. I arranged temporary leases overnight to private guests and events, effectively tripling the lodge's revenue potential in a single day. The HOA's attempt to force compliance had inadvertently created an instant windfall. Karen arrived the next morning, fully expecting compliance. She was met instead with a bustling lodge, guests checking in, and legal representatives calmly documenting the scene. I greeted her with a casual smile. "Interesting timing," I said. "Your 48-hour demolition notice has turned into an overnight lease expansion. Care to explain?" Her reaction was priceless. She stammered, sputtered, and tried to insist that enforcement should proceed. But every point she raised had already been preemptively addressed. Legal counsel quietly explained the property rights, contracts, and potential liability of any demolition attempt. Each argument Karen made only highlighted her lack of preparation and understanding of property law. The neighbors, many of whom had been following the ongoing HOA saga with fascination, began to take notice. Karen's pattern of overreach, intimidation, and aggressive demands was becoming a public spectacle. Her credibility slipped further as the lodge thrived under her attempted restrictions. Every visitor, every lease agreement, and every legal safeguard reinforced the reality that she had no authority over my property. I then implemented an additional strategic safeguard. Surveillance cameras, smart locks, and automated alerts ensured that any attempt to interfere with the lodge, even physically, would be immediately documented and actionable. The HOA's power to intimidate or disrupt was neutralized, while my leverage and control grew exponentially. By the end of the week, the lodge was not only fully operational, but also more profitable and strategically fortified than ever before. Karen's demolition notice had not only failed to intimidate but had become a public demonstration of my ability to anticipate, counter, and capitalize on aggression. The HOA had assumed that fear and urgency could compel compliance, but in reality, they had only provided a platform for further advantage. As I walked through the lodge that evening, observing the guests enjoying the property, I reflected on a fundamental truth. Preparation and strategic thinking can turn threats into opportunities. Karen's threats had never been about the lodge, they were about asserting control. But control is meaningless when every move has been anticipated, every vulnerability fortified, and every potential escalation transformed into leverage. The lesson was clear. Authority without understanding is empty, aggression without preparation is futile, and foresight turns even the most audacious attacks into victory. Karen had tried to force me into demolition, but instead, she had helped me expand, strengthen, and showcase the very lodge she had hoped to destroy.